Hey y'all, welcome back to part 5 of this horse trailer renovation. I'm just going to dive right into it. So this switch plate right here was in the bathroom, and as you can see there are so many wires connected to that one switch. Now to my knowledge they don't make vent fans for the bathroom that are wired to a switch like this anymore, and so I am converting this from a switch on the wall to a remote, which it wasn't that bad. But basically what I'm trying to do is sort through all of these wires and trying to figure out which one is my positive and which one is my negative. Because in order to wire it to the new fan that's going to go up here that has the remote, all I need is a positive and a negative. So I need my 12 volt power and I need the negative to that. And this is an old style vent fan, which means that on the wall switch you could basically press a button to make it go up, make it go down, make the fan turn on. There was just a whole bunch of things, but this is all remote controlled. And so I don't really need most of these anymore. And I was trying to figure out what goes to what. And it's kind of weird how they wired this because it's like they wired it in sequence with the lights that were in here. So I did figure out that it had to reroute to the lights and then come back to the fan. And then my ground, my negative side was grounded to the actual chassis of the trailer itself, which is not uncommon in trailers like these. They'll usually just have like a 12 volt and then an individual ground to the chassis versus like RVs typically won't have that. They'll have a ground in the actual breaker box itself, and they're all connected on like a breaker bar. Anyway, that was kind of a tangent. I found the wires that I needed, so I'm going to go ahead and take all of this stuff off up on the roof. And if you remember the last, I think it was maybe 2 episodes ago, I actually took off the vents and I replaced those. And now the AC is off because I do need to do some work to that. And then I'm going to take, this is the bathroom fan right here. This is going to come off as well. It's pretty much same procedure as replacing the other ones. I'm going to undo the screws and then it's going to pop up and then I'll clean it, put new butyl tape on the new vent and then screw it back down. And this job actually wasn't really that bad because there wasn't a whole lot of sealant on here for me to clean off, which was nice. And I was actually surprised that this wasn't leaking, but I guess that is a good thing, so I'm not going to complain about that. I'm also going to replace the TV antenna while I'm up here because mine as well. They're fairly inexpensive to replace, and the wire's already up there, and I needed to clean under it and reseal it anyway, so if I'm going to do that, I might as well just replace it. Now, as you can see, I did not clean some of these spots when I originally cleaned the roof with soap and water, and it's because I couldn't get to them. So this is just a bucket and a rag that I have. It has, I think it's got some soap and water and maybe a little bit of simple green in there just to clean everything off. Not a whole lot of simple green, just a little bit. So I'll clean that off, and these wires that I'm pulling through the ceiling here are actually all of those wires that I didn't need. So I'm just going to pull them out of the wall because there's no point in having them in there. And like I said, one of those yellow wires, I think I rerouted over to that light that's right there that you see me grabbing. Those are connected and then it reroutes back over to this fan. So all of the electrical is squared and in good condition now and where it's supposed to be. So I want to hook this up to see if it works before I go through the whole process of installing it and all that fun stuff. So the reason I chose to install a remote controlled fan was, one, because it already had a switch on the wall. And I figured they did that for a reason. And 2, I am a fairly tall person. I'm almost 6 foot tall, and I can reach the ceiling, but like it's almost questionable. So I know anybody that's shorter than me most definitely would not be able to reach the ceiling to turn the fan on if they ever wanted to. So I just spent the extra money and I got a nice upgrade for this trailer, and it's definitely a nice fan. It's got a rain sense on it, so it'll sense when it starts raining, and if it's open, it'll close. Has different fan speeds. Like, it's a really nice fan. I think I bought this one off of Amazon. I honestly don't remember what brand it was, but I do have it linked in my Amazon storefront if you wanted to look at it. This was the first fan like this that I bought, and I would probably buy it again. I didn't really have any complaints, so I mean, it seems to be a pretty decent fan. So now that that is installed, I can go ahead and put the antenna in. And the one thing that I don't like about these circle ones is that you hook the antenna connector up, and then you kind of have to like pre-spin the wire before you spin that top piece on. And I just don't like that, because there's really not a good way to connect it and then screw it in by how it's built. So anyway, but I got that in. It's got a new antenna. It works great. So I am moving on to the air conditioner, which this was kind of a mute process to begin with and a waste of my time, but I didn't know that when I was doing this. So when you have old trailers like this, I didn't know if this air conditioner worked or not. My client didn't know either because she's never used this trailer because it was in such bad condition. But I like to just cover my bases, and if it's an old trailer, I will replace the AC gasket, and this one was pretty bad. So I bought a new AC gasket kit right there, but before you install it, you have to take the old one off, and then you have to clean it really well, and then you can put the new gasket on. And this ended up being a moot point because this air conditioner did not work when I was finished with this renovation. So she ended up upgrading to one of the Rec Pro units that has an air conditioner and a heat pump in it, which I think was a great choice because those are phenomenal. And I've installed so many of those. My neighbor has one in her trailer too, and they're just really great units. So when I reinstall this, I kind of put it in the spot where I think it should go. And then I come on the inside and I actually lift that metal part up to try to make the gasket fit around the opening. And I like to get it nice and square before I even think about putting the bolts back in. So now that I know that these bolts are back in, I am going to go, or know that it's square, I'm going to go ahead and put the bolts back in. Now this is the one time where I'm going to backtrack on something that I have said. And I don't usually do that often, but I will definitely admit when I'm wrong. So usually for these units, I don't install lap sealant around it. But when I went to install the new unit on this, what I didn't realize or pay attention to is that there is no structural support for the back part of this AC unit. So usually there's some type of like framing on all four sides of this, but this trailer didn't have that. And so when I tightened and clamped it down, it left a little bit of a gap on the back side. So I did end up putting lap sealant on the new one all the way around on the top side, on the roof side, and that solved the issue that I was having with it leaking. So I'm going to retract my statement when I say don't put lap sealant on it, because I've probably installed, I don't know, maybe 10 of these units, and I've never had an issue, never once. But this is the one time, the one exception. So I don't know, maybe I'll start putting lap sealant on it just to cover my bases at this point. Now the AC unit is installed, so as you can see right here, I am cleaning the walls, and this is just a prep for primer and sanding and all that fun stuff. So I am using, this is just water and simple green. I also like to clean the windows and the rings and all that fun stuff before I start doing anything, because it's just easier to clean it now and then just give it a good wipe down once the renovation's finished than have to worry about if any of the furniture is in the way and the window treatments and just all that fun stuff. It is going to get dirty again, but I still like to wipe it down to get most of the dirt out of the way. Okay, so now I can go ahead and put this lap sealant on. I think I didn't do it to begin with because I needed to order more, which is why I didn't do it right when I was already up here. But again, this is just self-leveling sealant and just, running along the edge, and then make sure that any screws are covered as well. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in, these were the other holes where the antenna was, so I'm going to fill those in, and then I'm also going to put it over the base of the antenna and cover up the screws on the antenna as well, just to make sure that nothing seeps through and nothing's going to leak. Just make sure that your surface is, again, still clean, because it'll stick if it's dirty, but it'll stick better if it's clean. Okay, so as far as the roof goes, everything should be done at this point. Everything on the roof side has been replaced, minus the AC unit, which I will get to later on. So now I'm going to start really actually putting back together and renovating the inside of this trailer. I'm going to start up here where the gooseneck is, because I'm going to start with this cabinet first. There's lots and lots of nails and stuff in the walls, so I'm going to go ahead and take all of the nails out and prep my surfaces for me to reinstall the cabinets and clean up all of this mess, because this is just foam right here. I ended up taking out the part that That's actually it right there that I'm talking about. It's just a piece of wood that goes over top the foam. And so I did end up taking that out because it had some like water damage and mold on it, and it was just yucky. So I'm going to replace that, and then I'm going to start working on the cabinet that's up there. I just saved that piece so I could use it as a template, and now it's going in the trash. Could I have measured this? Yes, absolutely. I could have measured it from the inside of the trailer, but there were already 2 pieces of wood that were perfectly fit to those corners, so why would I remeasure something if I could just make my life a little bit easier and use the template? So that is exactly what I did. I did make this wood a little bit thicker. The other one is 1/8 inch plywood. This is 5mm underlayment that I'm using right here. And not really a whole much difference thickness wise, but I just feel like it holds up a little better, and that is what I can find locally, so that's what I used. I'm just finished cutting right here using my jigsaw. Really nothing fancy, nothing special. Most of this is going to be covered by a mattress and cabinets and trim and all that fun stuff anyway. And as you can see, I actually didn't cut the length for this because in the past, when I've done these trailers, I've made the mistake of making that too short, and I wanted the end part right there to overlap with the new OSB that I'm going to put on the front. And so that's why I kept my length, and I'm just gonna flush cut that with my plywood once I put new OSB on the front of the trailer. And there was like a little piece of wood that was getting stuck from that one piece in the corner going under, so I just trimmed that and then shoved it forward, and it's perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and put the other side on. Same thing. I used the template that I had from the other piece. And what I didn't think about for this one was originally they had just left these 2 pieces overlapped, which makes absolutely no sense to me. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it and cut it as I did, and it fits almost perfectly. There is a couple adjustments that I'm going to make so it sits nice and flush with each other. I don't know why they left it to overlap. It seems like a simple thing that would take somebody 5 minutes to cut the extra couple inches off the middle pieces of the plywood, but what do I know, I guess. This was covered in carpet anyway, so I guess they figured that the bed was going to be there so nobody would see the lump that was in the carpet. I don't even know the thought process for that one, honestly. All right, so now it's time for the face frames, and I think this was the most frustrating part of the entire renovation to me. And in hindsight, I think maybe I would have just bit the bullet and rebuilt all of these out of pine, but I knew this renovation was going off track a little bit time-wise, and I was trying to save myself a little bit of time. But honestly, I'm not sure how much time I saved myself because I ended up having to sand all of these down, and that took quite a bit of time to sand all of this. And I think the only reason I was okay with it was because, one, I knew I was going to go a darker stain than this one originally is, and 2, it saved on the cost. I was trying to stay on budget with this renovation for my client. I did end up going a little bit over because we had to replace the fridge and the AC unit, but for the most part, I did stay on track and on budget, which is great, but this really did take a significant amount of time to sand down. And I don't just have this one face frame. I probably had about 7 or 8 different face frames that I had to sand down. I tried to think about the most efficient way to do this, and I couldn't come up with anything that was cost effective and time effective other than just sitting here and sanding it. So that's exactly what I did. I sanded and sanded and sanded and then sanded some more and then sanded some more after that. So, I mean, I'm not mad at how it came out. It actually turned out pretty good. For the middle pieces, the pieces that are inlaid into this face frame, I figured it was worth my time to just remove those and put new plywood there. So that is what I did. I tried to save the integrity of this frame for the most part. I think the most difficult part, other than the sanding, well, it wasn't difficult, it was just time consuming, was all of the inside pieces for the inlays, because my sander would not fit in that little crack or that little space. It was probably only a couple inches, that spot where I'm taking it out. And so I had to hand sand those, which was quite irritating. And as you can imagine, whoever built this used 7,000,000 quadrillion staples, which was just fantastic. I mean, it was top-notch build quality there. So because I chose not to sand these and to just take them out, I think I spent more time taking out the staples that were in the back of this. Because I am not kidding you, there was probably a staple every 2 centimeters. I mean, they were almost right beside each other for the entire duration of this face frame. I'm like, why did they use so many staples? It makes no sense to me. This process definitely severely humbled me because right before I started working on these face frames, I was like, man, I'm doing so good on time here. Like I'm doing great. And then this part came and I was like, this is the worst, literally the worst. As you can see, I finally wisened up because my back started to hurt bending over. So I'm sitting on a cooler and just bending the piece over, and that worked much better. And it was definitely a lot easier on my back and my neck when I kind of bent it toward me. All right, so after they are all out, again, as you can see here, my sander wouldn't fit in there, so I kind of just hand sanded this. I bought some specialty, like really small sanders, but honestly, just hand sanding it seemed to work the best, other than my hands were cramping when I did this. But thankfully, I got through it, and it's fine, because now I'm probably have like Hulk hand strength over here because of gripping that thing for hours. Now that that's over, I can finally cut the pieces that will go on the inlay for this. And this is just more 5mm underlayment that I have, just some scrap wood. As you can see, I'm yelling at my child to get out of the way while I'm using the table saw. They do know better, but sometimes they forget. So I have to remind them that it is not safe to stand behind me while I'm using the table saw. So I'm just going to cut my pieces, and then when I put them in, I think I forgot to record this part, but I'm just test fitting it right here. I think I ended up trimming maybe one more of these, and then I'm putting the best one. There's like a rough side and a smooth side, or more finished side. So I'm putting the finished side facing toward the front, and then I don't know why I didn't show, I must have already put the glue on, but I put some wood glue on the outside edge, and then I'm just tacking this in. I don't think I'm using quite as many staples as they used because I used glue, so that adds a little structural support. But contrary to popular belief, I don't think that adding more staples is going to do anything for the structural stability of these face frames, because they're not made of much to begin with. I'm going to be honest with you. I had posted about that before, and people were like, well, they need that many staples because the trailer twists. And the trailer does not twist and move as much as you would think it does. So there's that. Okay, so now you can see it is coming together. And if you notice, there's different like color variations in the wood. That won't matter, and you won't be able to see it because the stain is going to be darker anyway. I did test this out before I ended up sanding everything down. So I sanded one spot and then I stained it just to make sure, and then I resanded it. But now I'm just securing this, making sure that it's nice and even on both sides and centered, and basically just screwing it back into the same screw holes that it was in before. And if you're curious why I did not go ahead and stain it and put polyurethane on it, it's because I wanted to see how it looked up here, and I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do with the ceiling yet, and that would have made a difference on what color I stained the cabinets. So it's kind of a work in progress, but that's okay. It turned out great in the end. Part 6 is coming soon, so follow and subscribe if you would like.